it was actually going to be Natasha who is interviewing me. And we've had some technical difficulties, but in entrepreneurship, especially now in the digital age, when we're using technology, there's just all these little things come up and they can really throw you off. Really got to have like extra amount of patience, just be able to flow with it. And just if something doesn't work, move on to another platform or another method, or, ask a question on Google and find a way to make it work and be resourceful, because the technology and the industry is constantly adapting, changing, evolving. And yeah, Natasha, kick it away.
Thank you, David. This is definitely a quote. You know how some of those quotes or some of those expressions that have really stuck with you and have literally changed your life? For me, there's two big ones. And one of them was, it's never a lack of resources, but a lack of resourcefulness. And I would always remind myself of that quote whenever I'm like stuck and I'm like, okay. And especially I'm not a technology person. Anyone that knows about astrology, I was born in a Mercury retrograde. So I basically am carrying around a Mercury retrograde vibe throughout my whole life. So technology, documents, all of that is like, so I've had to use this for a long time. And sometimes when I can't figure things out, I'll just like, and I love living in India because they have a word that says jugad, right? And it's a Hindi word. Mm-hmm. And it means like makeshift, basically. So I'll just makeshift whatever needs to happen. And that's kind of what we've done now. So that is, that's a big one that's always stuck with me. So that's, have you ever heard that one? It's never a lack of resources, but a lack of resourcefulness. I'm sure you've heard that before.
I mean, I've heard something to that extent. I just haven't heard about Mercury retrograde being frustrated by technology, but it makes a lot of sense.
It's a thing. Yeah.
How do you know if you're Mercury retrograde? When is that period of time that you were, born in?
So I only know because in India here, it's a very big thing to see an astrologer. Like it's very normal. Every family has their astrologers, such as in the West, people have their family doctors. Okay. So I've seen a couple astrologers when someone's like, oh, I know a really good one. I'm like, oh, well, let me see and let me validate what I've been told by the last one. And it's always different. So I don't take these things too seriously. But at the same time, I was told that, and I was told that it's very important for me to make sure that whenever I buy property or if I do big business deals, to double check the documents always, because that I'm going to be more prone to having those kinds of errors, for example. So that kind of like life advice that they give you. And when he said that, I was like, oh, that's why technology, like if there's something that's going to go wrong, I'm like, yeah, it'll be with me when it comes to technology. Right. So that kind of explained it.
I mean, I actually, I was hitchhiking around an island a month ago. And then when I got a chance to have a car and drive around a little bit, I was picking people up, and I picked up this Chinese woman, and we were driving a little bit, and she asked me, when's your birthday? And I'm like, I told her when my birthday was. She goes, oh, wow, you had 2 really shitty years of bad luck. But wait, in June, your luck is going to change because of when my birthday is and the year that I was born, and like the seasonal changes and whatnot. So yeah, the astrology is definitely super interesting, and it got me really excited. And I feel like that's the beauty of astrology, is that if someone does say something that gives you a little glimmer of hope or excitement or some awareness, maybe about something that you just were neglecting in your life, you thought that it was just by chance, but is anything by chance, Natasha? Being aware of something when it comes to astrology, like, we go to the astrologer and we expect them to tell us like everything about our life. And obviously that's a little bit far-fetched, but there might be that one little thing that you thought was, oh, it's just by chance. And then you realize maybe it's not by chance. Maybe there's actually something in the energetic world, in my relation to my family and my family's family, that has influenced the way that I respond, that I act, that I be.
Totally. I don't think that there is any coincidence of when we're born, into what family we're born, and why we're born. And what I love about astrology is that it is it is kind of your predisposition. It's what is the energy around your body per se. However, it's not anything that's built into cement, or I'm not trying to say this in English. Sorry, I got like the French expression. That's what it is. Nothing is set in stone. There you go. And everything, you still have free will. Like as a human being, as this light being that you are, even if it's written in the astrology XYZ, if you really don't want XYZ, you have that free will at every single moment. Because if you really don't have the choice and something is really bound to happen, it will happen, but you won't be given that option. So whenever you're given an option in life to take a decision, it's because you're given the choice. So I don't know if that kind of made sense, but with the astrology for myself, what you're talking about, it was really funny because the first reading I ever had when it comes to Vedic astrology, which is the astrology from India, it works with the moon more than with the sun. And the girl was like, yeah, you've got the potential to be a healer, na, na, na. And I was like, a healer? I was like, seriously? I was like, that's so weird. I just got into India. I was like this party girl. I like traveled the world, going to bars and clubs. And like, I was like working in like pub crawls, and I was like getting drunk and shit. And I'd come to India to heal my IBS. And then when she told me that, I thought that was super weird, because in my mind, healers were these like weird gifted people that were like not like normal. And I considered myself relatively normal. And then 2.5 years later, through my journey in India, I'm like, Reiki, oils, meditations, yoga. I'm like, what problem do you have? Let me try to help you heal. If it's not me, I'll refer you to someone that can. And I do identify right now as a healer through different modalities. So it's super crazy, because I think that because I had that meeting with her, it opened me up. And when I started getting into this, where I would give people massage and they'd be like, your hands are really different. They're like, you've really got like, and I'd like give someone like have a headache, and after just 10 minutes of massage, they're like, wow, what did you do? It's completely gone. And I think I would have doubted myself a lot more as a healer if it wasn't for the fact that I would have had that astrology reading. So that's what I really like about it.
So no dreadlocks when you first went to India?
No, I had them. They were small, but I had them.
Okay, so the physical identity at times is very different than our emotional identity and our spiritual identity. So we can dress in a suit, but then go home to shitty environment, not be that professional, have bad habits, things like that. Or we can, dress fairly average, fairly normal, right? And we can be very spiritually aligned and in touch. So I think that's just like something to be aware of when it comes to, you said you wanted to talk about branding, is that you can create the brand image that you want people to believe that you are. But eventually, if you're not practicing what you preach, and behind closed doors and behind that image, that facade, if it's not backed up by the right energy of what you're trying to put out, it won't be sustainable. Eventually, people will figure out that you're not who they thought you were. And especially if they see you in real life, your digital identity may be different from your in-person physical identity. And when there's a misalignment there, that creates a lot of volatility in the content, in the connection, and also in the impact that you're trying to create.
Definitely. And I love what you're saying. If there's one word that I feel sums up what you've just said, one of my favorite words ever, it's integrity. And integrity in branding for me is so important in life, just as a person, because I feel that integrity is a direct derivative from honesty. And that is one of the number one things that I value in life, as per professional, personal, whatever, to yourself, especially. Like the easiest person to lie to is yourself, right? So having that integrity in your brand and being able to really see yourself and to know when you are or not being integrous is, I think, what's going to propel you or might make or break your brand, basically. Would you agree?
I definitely agree. I meet people and it's like, it's crazy because let's say this might not be for you, but put yourself in the shoes, okay, of a girl that wants to go and be an au pair. Okay. She wants to go and be a nanny for
Mhm.
a family. Well, some go and they find these incredibly wealthy families and they have this incredibly affluent experience, and others go and they have a family where the parents are abusive to the children. So the amount of opportunities that are out there are endless, but it's about finding the right ones and being selective on which ones you choose. So, you choose, you decide which opportunities are right for you. But the question really first that we have to ask ourselves is, where do we find these opportunities?
Definitely. And that was my struggle for a long time when I was a digital nomad. It took me a good year of being like like going on Upwork and like freelancer and trying to look around on Indeed.com and all of these places where I was like, where do people get this online job stuff? And this was like 6 years ago. So it wasn't as big as it is now. Now, I mean, it's a lot more accessible. Still, I think that there is a need for groups such as Room because the virtuous ones aren't that easy to come across. There's a lot going on right now on the internet when it comes to scams, when it comes to, people trying to sell anything to you. And yeah, that was my thing. I was there. I was like, how can I just make $1,000 a month
Mhm.
online? I was like, how can I do that? Where do I even find these things? I would have done anything for an opportunity. And I did. I started with, oh my God, translating this, transcribing that, subtitles, that all of these super boring, not passion related
Mhm.
jobs. And then throughout that, now I've built my way up into the online industry where I'm like, how can I make $1,000 in a day? So it's your perspective changes a lot as you get into the industry. And that's what I really want to bring to people as well, is kind of that fast track. So you don't have to spend what I did those 2-3 years where you go from making $200 a month and then you slowly work your way up. We want to accelerate that path. And fortunately today it's totally doable, especially if you know what skill you're good at and you've got a passion, you can just go like that, honestly.
I wanted to just add something to what you said. Like you said that the opportunities are very difficult to find, the good ones especially. So one thing that I would ask you to do if you're not really sure where the opportunities are find some entrepreneurs and ask them, what are the most important jobs that need to get done in your business, especially the ones that you don't like to do. And if you ask more and more entrepreneurs, you're going to start seeing trends of jobs that are really important, but that they don't have the time to do themselves. And that's where you come in. That's where your new opportunity to learn a skill set. Natasha learned sales. I also learned sales, and you should learn sales too, because no matter what you're doing in life, you're going to have to, on some level, sell yourself, whether it's to your parents, whether it's to your girlfriend or your boyfriend, whether it's to your boss, or whether it's to your clients. At some point you're going to have to sell yourself. And if you don't learn how to ask for what you want and provide value to
Mhm.
people and serve other people, then that breakthrough is going to seem like it's so difficult, it's so far away, it's such a outerworldly goal. But in the end of the day, it's really not. It's really just you learning how persuasion, influence, sales, and marketing really work, and flipping it on its head, and realizing that, sure, you can look at it as sleazy, as, oh, another closer, another DM that I got. And you can come from a place of being bitter, or you can come from a place of being better. And when you go and you start to be better, you bring more love, you bring more empathy, you connect with people more deeply, you provide them more value, and you open up all these things and all these virtuous remote opportunities for you in your life. And then you're connecting with cool people from India. This is what is possible. But a lot of you guys, you think that it's not. And it's not that it's not possible. It's that you're resistant to learn the skills that make it possible.
Totally, totally. And I love how you say that because there is a lot of bitterness on the internet right now with, oh, people are DMing me and like, and I feel like there's no rule guide. What are the internet, what are the Facebook ethics, right? Can you DM someone without permission? Can you tag someone in post without permission?
Don't talk
No, no, no,
about
you
Trump
know?
or Russia.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, what is acceptable? There's actually, and everyone's like level of what's acceptable and what's not. Because what we're doing is we're bringing in all of these cultures. And as a traveler, I can tell you that what is acceptable in India and what is acceptable in Canada are two very different things. I mean, very different. Okay. So, and if anyone from India is listening to this, they're going to laugh because Indian people normally do not know anything about personal boundaries. Okay. And this is like a known fact that even they would agree to. So it's kind of like a joke. So when it comes to Facebook, there are like, you're dealing with the global. So what one person thinks is okay and what the other one thinks is okay is totally different. So having that, like you said, that openness and just responding with everything with love brings so much more joy into your own life and helps to keep your vibration high. Like I've had people DM me where they're trying to get me to book a call with, they're probably like a virtual assistant or an affiliate. They don't really know what they're doing. This one woman I'm thinking of, she was like, hey, you commented on my post. So here's this calendar. You should like, book a 30-minute call with this woman. And I'm like, you haven't even like asked me how I am. Like, you don't know anything about me. You haven't asked any pain points and you're like shooting me a calendar.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm going to book that call.
What you just hit on was the first thing that I learned when I started to learn sales. So I want to hear about your first sales job in a second. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about mine. So my first sales job was, okay, first I was, it wasn't a sales job. My first job was I was literally parking cars at the local pub in the town near me. All right. And people ask like, oh, it's always been easy for you. You've always had money, right? Traveling, it's so easy. Like, no, like I had to park cars at one point, pick weeds from the ground in garlic fields. Like I did some pretty dirty work, right? But the sales job was interesting because my first sales job was with Vector Marketing, which is selling Cutco knives. It's a very common job in the United States. They're a New York-made knife company, so Americans love to support American products, and they buy those instead of the German Henkel brand or the other one. And in the first initial training, they tell you the most important thing that you can do with someone when you get into that presentation is, guys, you have any idea? If you have an idea, drop it in the comments below right now. What do you think it is? What's that one word? It's that one word. Drum roll. Rapport. You've got to build rapport with people. And a lot of people miss that step and they jump right into, asking these really deep questions about, your business or really basic questions that, like, how are you, that don't really evoke any emotional response. But building rapport, if you're doing it correctly, it definitely illustrates that you are emotionally intelligent and emotionally aware because you're picking up on cues that the other person would be responsive to. There's, to some people, if you start talking to them about psychedelics, they're not going to be responsive. If you start talking to them about politics, they're going to close off. To others, you start talking about those subjects and they're going to open up. When it comes to sales and connection and marketing, do we want people to close themselves or do we want them to open up? Ask yourself that. And then when you go out to do the outreach and you start sending messages, really do it. Don't just say you check the box, but ask yourself, did the questions that I asked today encourage someone to open up, or were they just very boring, basic, were they copy paste questions? Because if they really allowed someone to open up, what they usually did was they touched on something specific about that person, something that that person was wearing, something that that person talked about, something that that person was giving off in their energy. And that's a little bit more advanced when it comes to, your experience, your life experience, and getting more in touch with your own embodiment. But if you're not there yet, that's fine. Okay. You could just base your questions, your comments, or your communication off of the physical world. And that's okay too. But if you neglect this step of building rapport and building connection, when you move on to the phase that we're going to be talking about on the group call with Natasha, which is qualifying and actually escalating and moving into the sale per se, then that person is going to show so much more resistance. And when you're going to overcome some of their fears and objections, they're not going to trust you and they're not going to believe you and they're not going to connect with you. So that's where the I need to think about it is going to come up.
And you've said it, you said the key word, they're not going to trust you. And this is huge. And rapport comes in trust. And I know this might sound cheesy, but even giving someone a compliment, and you don't want it to look like you're trying to give them a compliment, but if you can compliment someone like within the first 5 minutes that you've met them, and this is, I mean, everyday life, right? Obviously on a sales call, you're going to do it a little bit differently. But anytime that you can, even if you're doing, let's say, DM outreach, right? You don't want to just be like, hey, here's my calendar link. Hey, like I saw that you commented on the post. By the way, your profile picture has XYZ. Oh my God, that's so cute, right? Like whatever it might be. And that's so easy. You don't even have to go on their profile. You literally look at the profile picture and you could give them a compliment like that, And that's going to make a huge difference. People are going to be warmed up to that because they feel validated. And then when they feel validated about something about them that they've obviously chose to have, such as like, I don't know, like if I'd say to you, like, oh, I love the hairstyle, you're rocking the beanie, man. I love the beanies, then it's like, now you've got trust, right? Right there. Cause you're like, oh, this, like, we understand, we've got the same values. It's so crazy, but this is really how the subconscious mind works. So definitely with the trust there. And as you were saying before, with the bitterness online and everything as well, it's like this woman, when she sent that to me, I could have just been like, oh, whatever, and blocked her. But instead I sent her a 2-minute VM explaining this exact thing to her, saying, I'm not going to book a call because you didn't build any rapport, blah, 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 blah. And then she wrote back a message and she was like, oh, thanks. I just started doing this, And I was like, awesome. So I just created more positive energy for that person and myself. And then I saved a whole bunch of other people after me getting the same shitty message. So the being the better and not the bitter is definitely, even not on your own personal level, but just on like the global scale, is making the world a better place. So rapport is definitely, as you're saying, super important. And life is sales, sales is life. Wherever you can build rapport, do it.
If any of you guys are interested, feel free to drop a comment. Natasha's going to be there. Or are you too bitter to do anything about your life? And look, if you're watching this and you are a little bit bitter, like, that's okay. Drop with us a comment or send us a message and let us know what happened to you. What happened? Why are you a little bit bitter? We've been bitter too. I'm sure Natasha was bitter. I've been bitter. I've had people publicly shame me. I've, had the coach's VA reach out to me, and I told him, I'm a dating coach. Why are you reaching out to me trying to sell me dating services? And it's frustrating, and it leads to frustration, and it leads to, thinking that you're better than someone else, or that another person needs to learn from you, or there's just a lot of bitterness that comes up. And, when you take a step back from everything and you remove yourself from the lens that you currently have on, and maybe a few months or a few years down the line, you start to see that other person just wants the exact same thing that you want in life. They just want to grow their business. They just want to help more people. They want to make a little bit more money. Maybe some people for different reasons. One person wants, a fancy car and a pina colada and chilling on the beach with this, significant other. And the other person just wants like a nice family and, some kids and a beautiful home. But at the end of the day, we both want the same thing. We both want new clients, more revenue. We want to feel more whole. We want to feel more love. We want to feel more grounded, or at least, we should have those aspirations, I think. But we think that other person is like a bad person because of the way they reached out to us, because of the way they tried to improve their life and improve their business and sell and market. And what do we even know? How do we know that that way doesn't work? How do we know that there aren't other people that don't resonate with that approach?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time we don't. And so we just judge and we make assumptions based off of our limited experience. Okay. So the bitterness, it can continue for you if you feel like that's the path you want to go down, but it's going to be a path of a lot of resistance. It's going to be a path of a lot of pain. And if you want to experience a path of a little bit more pleasure and joy and fun, well, then you will joke with people a little bit more online. You will send some more emojis and you will have a little bit more fun in your conversations. Kind of like the conversation we just had, which I felt like was fun. It was free, it was open, it was flowing, there was no agenda. And, you know, you guys can do the same thing if you stop overthinking everything and you just start enjoying each opportunity to connect.
Yes. Oh my God. Overthinking is probably the biggest disease on the planet right now. I would literally like vouch for that. It is crazy how I feel like, I don't know if it's just in recent years, like in the recent 50 years, or if it's even less than that or more than that, or if it's been forever and we just haven't never known. But the level of conditioning we have to overthink things is just really crazy. So I'm so happy you brought that up. Don't overthink it. Just come and meet us next week as well.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm looking down at my computer and there's all these applications. And then when I go and I open my phone, there will be more applications. And then when I go to open the applications, there will be more options. And then when I go to open up the messenger, there will be more messages. There's all these things to think about. Think. Now, put yourself back in the shoes of the entrepreneur in the 1950s. Okay. He didn't have those tools. For him, it was just, I'm going to read the newspaper, I'm going to read the book, I'm going to write the letter. All right. Type it up if I got a typewriter. You know, it's much more streamlined process, very many fewer options. And so a lot of the time, people, they get confused. Like, do I need to be everywhere? Do I need to be selling to everyone? Do I need to be using Airtable and Slack and Discord and Telegram? And it's like, yeah, you don't. What you need to do is find what works for you and what provokes people to actually resonate with you. And once you find your little zone of genius, that's where you can focus. That's where you can double down.
I am just so grateful to have been here, and it turned out perfect. Looks like the universe wanted us to be in these groups. So I guess whoever's listening, it was really meant for you to hear this. So I am really looking forward to doing this again with you, David. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Beautiful. We figured it out. All right, guys.
Yes.
We'll talk to you soon.